Okay, yeah, once again, I'm going back over some notes, and yeah, turkey season just finished. And one thing that's on my mind was the bird that I hunted toward the end of the year that when I called to him, he never would come in. And I remember hunting that same bird last year. If he survived, he's going to be, 4 or 5 years old. So transitioning out of turkey season now into deer season, and although this is only June the 10th, there's a lot that we as hunters can be doing to prepare for deer season. Now, my home state, I think I looked on the North Carolina website, and we're about 14 weeks, 98 days or so away from opening day, which is in the second week of September, and that's bow season. So you're thinking, wow, 14 weeks. But if you look at it and break it down on the things that you can be doing, 14 weeks is a relatively short amount of time. Especially for those of you who are buying new bows, or for those of you who have you have an older bow, and maybe you need to get new strings and cables put on. So there's a lot that we can be doing. So I've got a list of things that I just brainstormed, did a little research, looking at some of the things that I go through every year. And this is not a comprehensive list. You probably have things that you do that are different than I do. But here's just a few things that we're going to be doing. And today I want to go out and actually set up a trail camera. And I'll get to that in just a second. But, first thing I think we ought to do is evaluate your gear. And I do that every year. I take an inventory of what I've got and what I need. Okay. So for example, if you use tree steps or climbing sticks, take a look at that. Do you need additional ones? Are some broken? Do they need to be replaced or repaired? Look at your tree stands, anything loose. Do you remember something last year that may have rattled or clanged? And not just while you're carrying it, because that's one of the things I try to focus on is when I'm hiking in, being as stealthy, as quiet as possible. But actually when you're in your stand and moving side to side or shifting your weight, do you hear some sounds there? So evaluate our gear, and that's clothing, your boots, your rifles, handguns, your bow, muzzleloader, whatever it may be, tree stands, everything that you use to hunt with. The last thing you want to do is opening day and you can't find something, or if you find it, it needs to be repaired or replaced. Okay, so let's start now. Let's try to do some gear evaluation. Take a look at what you've got. And there's always some new things on the market. I know a lot of people buy bows every year. They trade them every year. I'm not that type of person. I've got a 2002 bow that I shoot, and I've shot it, 19 years, I guess. Now I did pick up another bow last year used. I think it's a 2008 bow that I got, but I'm gonna be doing a little bit of work on that, and we may do a video showing that progression. But go through all of your equipment and make sure it's right. Okay, make sure everything is in perfect working order. Okay, and especially bow hunters, look at your strings and cables. Make sure all those are in good shape. I think the recommendation is every 2 to 3 years. Now that may seem like a high expense for you, but if a string breaks, you can have an injury or a broken limb or something. So go through all the gear, do an inventory, make sure you got what you need. If there's something out there that you'd like to have, you feel like it can help you become a better hunter, then you got to decide on whether you can fit that in your budget or not. Okay, and then look at everything else and decide, can I repair it or do I need to replace it? All right. Second thing on the list is going to be practicing. And if you watched any of the turkey videos with my shotgun patterning and simulating the shot, I focus a lot on that. That was one area that I felt like in my hunting skills that I was really handicapped on, and I had to improve on it. So I came up with a few ways of getting better, and simulating the shot was the best way I could come up with. And I'll do the same thing for bow hunting. I'll get my bow, I'm warmed up, loosened up, ready to shoot, got my targets in place, and I'll do a sprint. And maybe I'll do some push-ups. And I'll grab my bow, I'll make myself control my breathing, and you'll get your heartbeat relatively controlled, and then make the shot. And I try to do that in 3 to 5 second window. A lot of times that's about how much time you're going to have when a buck comes through. So practice your shooting. I practice every other day. I'm basically a 3-day week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I treat shooting my bow just like lifting weights, give my muscles a day to rest in between. I know a lot of sources say, hey, work your back muscles, and I agree with that too, but I also would add to that, work your shoulder muscles. I feel a lot of it in my front deltoid, so if you want to do some exercises to improve your shoulder strength, I'd work on the shoulder area, front side, and then like the other websites are saying or other sources are saying, the rear deltoids on your back, your lats. One thing that I would recommend doing, and this is just me, from my experiences, yeah, I hear this every year. A lot of times guys are saying, some of my friends are saying, man, my bow, I can't shoot anything with it. I say, okay, did you change anything? No, it's the same as it was last year. If your bow was sighted in the previous season, and you were shooting the groups that you were satisfied with, and you can call that qualified, calibrated, sighted in, whatever term you want to use, and it hasn't changed, and it's been sitting in the closet or wherever you got it located, and you take it out and you shoot it, the only thing that's different is you. So what I do is, for 1 week, every other day, I'll practice drawing my bow, and I do this outside, okay? Don't do it inside, unless you got a basement or someplace safe. But draw it, make sure you've got an arrow in it, just in case you accidentally hit your trigger. You don't want to dry fire your bow. Draw and hold. You're going to be amazed, and find something small to focus on. You're going to be amazed at how much movement, okay, you've got, windage and elevation-wise. You're upward and you're side to side. And then by the end of the week, that third session, you should be able to hold with relatively consistency at an object versus when you first started and you're moving all over the place. Once you get your muscles conditioned and your self-focus back in, I've got a 3-step process when I draw my bow. I go over that in my mind every time. So I've got a routine. In manufacturing, variation is a process killer, and it's the same way in your shooting. Get you a routine, get it dialed in, and get it in your mind, visualize it, and do that every time, okay? So I'd recommend practicing. The next thing, like I said, would be simulating the shot, and I've kind of went over that a little bit. I can't stress the importance of it, because when a buck comes in, we all get jacked up. We get that big charge of adrenaline. We're fired up and we're ready to go. So I would say find something that gets you close to that level. Obviously, you're not going to get to that level unless you run a 100-meter sprint or something like that. But jog, jumping jacks, do a sprint, do some push-ups, do something to get your heart rate elevated and your breathing faster, and that will simulate when that buck comes in, or doe, whatever it is you're hunting, and you can practice controlling your breathing and your heart rate, and doing that in 35-second time frame, pull the trigger, and then see how accurate you are on your target. Okay, scouting. We have to scout. I enjoy scouting. I enjoy being in the woods. Okay, so I don't have a problem in starting early. That's why, this past turkey season, I was making videos in March. I just like being in the woods. So that's not an issue with me, but some people, it may be an issue. Trying to find time around work and around family responsibilities and things like that, that makes it difficult. But if you're familiar with an area, then you've got enough data that you predominantly know where you need to be hunting, okay? New areas, you need to go back in and take a look. I'm a big food source person, just like for the turkey season. My train of thought is early season, the animal's going to be bulking up. If you want to shoot a doe, they're going to be on the food sources. Okay, if you want to shoot a buck, he's going to be on the food sources, although his food source is going to be really close to his bedding area. So find the food sources closest to the buck's bedding area. Look at the different type of food sources right now with everything green, and you're hunting an animal with a 4-chambered stomach, so deer are just like cattle. They're ruminants. They chew their cuds. They can pretty much eat almost anything. So from that standpoint, all green vegetation pretty much are fair game for deer. But as the seasons progress and the acorns start falling, then start looking for the predominant species of acorns in your area, whether it's white oaks, red oaks, chestnut oaks, or other species of oaks, pin oaks, that the deer like. And the biggest way to determine that is the sign, albeit tracks, where they're digging in the ground, and droppings, okay? Obviously, trails, travel corridors. I hunt in mountainous terrain, so I'm looking at benches, saddles, areas, low places and ridges or gaps, things like that, that deer can cross, because deer will like to use the path of least resistance. Look for funnels. I hunt in an area that's primarily wooded, so there's very few funnels in there. But if I can go from an area that has thicker vegetation to more thin, then maybe I can look at that as an edge. We do have some areas that have a tremendous amount of briars and multi-thorn bushes and all those different type of things that are, 8 feet tall. And that transitions then into maybe some hawthorn apple trees, which are 20 feet, 30 feet tall, to the larger timber, oaks. So you got 3 stages there. So you can look at those different stages and try to find some edging to where the deer like to travel in those areas. But the other thing I like to do too is go back and look at your previous data. It's just like turkey hunting. Go back to the areas where you have harvested or seen bucks or does before. And if nothing has changed, albeit pressure, timber cuts, land developments, housing developments, things like that coming in and changing it, then it should be relatively the same. Okay, so scouting, there's a lot of different things we can talk about there, but you know what you need to be looking for in that standpoint. And then trail cameras. And that's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to go up real quick, put a trail camera up. I know this is only June 10th, but think about this. Antlers start growing in April, and they stop somewhere, end of August, sometime in September when bucks start shedding the velvet. That's 6 months. So we're almost at the midpoint. At the end of this month, you'll be almost 50% through the antler cycle. Now, this is indicative of the buck. He may grow his earlier, he may grow his later, but typically it's April to September. So we're about at the halfway point. It depends on how much data you want to collect. So I'm going to go try to set up a trail camera and just collect as much data as possible. I like collecting data. I've done it for years and years, and I've even charted it in my area when the best time to hunt is. So whether you're making mental notes or you're putting them on paper or you're putting them in a computer or putting them in a chart, it's up to you. But the more data you can collect on your area that you're hunting, the more successful you're going to be. But, there again, obviously luck plays a role in that also. And in conditioning, I talked about this during turkey season. It's in our best interest to get in good cardiovascular shape. For overall health, it's beneficial to stay in good cardiovascular shape, okay? But at the same time, for the bow hunting, that's why we're practicing. That's why I recommend, every other day, 3 days a week, to practice, get your muscles in tune. But at the same time, at some point, we got to be prepared for either dragging a deer out or packing it out. So I would recommend getting in shape. Now, if there's areas around you, and I've done this before, I've been driving down the road. Man, that's a really nice place over there. And then lo and behold, I drive by there one day and I see someone out weed eating or mowing. Hey, need some help? My name's so-and-so. Next thing you know, you strike up a conversation. Would you mind if I hunted? Can I have permission? So now's the time to go out and ask landowners for permission to hunt, okay? Be courteous, be nice, be well-groomed, show respect, because you're representing hunters all together as a group, and see if you can get permission to hunt additional property. But now's the time to do that. If you're going out of state, and we try to hunt out of state also, we primarily hunt Ohio, but Lord willing, this year we'll be hunting Virginia, since we went up to Virginia. If you watch the turkey hunt videos, and we hunted in Virginia for turkey season and found some decent areas we felt like for deer. I guess that remains to be seen. But if you're going to hunt out of state, the bottom line is familiar yourself with the out of state laws. Okay, be comfortable with it. If you need to call a biologist, you need to call someone, do so, and make sure that you're within the guidelines of the state regulations. So understand that. And then for all those people out there who enjoy the private land, you've got enough private land to hunt on, then you've got potentially a laundry list of things that you can be doing, disking, plowing, fertilizing, planting, if you have food plots and things like that. Now, I primarily hunt national forests, game lands, or public lands. Now, I do have some private land that I hunt, and I get to hunt some at other places. So these videos will be focusing on all types of land, private and public land. But if you're a private lander, then you've got things you can be doing, whether it's a select cut, a clear cut, the food plots, things like that. You can actually go in and trim your shooting lanes. They even trim the area that you go, your travel path to and from your stand. So it depends on whether you're private and public. Obviously, public land hunters, we're limited in what we can and cannot do. So for the private land, you may have an additional list of things you need to do or take care of now in preparation for deer season. And, the last thing, I guess, is, and this is only about 9 or 10 different things, is putting all that together. And that's what I like to do. That to me, that's one of the most enjoyable things about either turkey hunting or deer hunting or whatever type of hunting or fishing that you do, is putting all this information together and formulating that strategy.